students with autism spectrum disorder.
Hi, I'm Jessica, and like Minna just said, the title of my thesis is Tools, Strategies, and Classroom Environment Accommodations for Students with Autism Spectrum Disorder. Autism Spectrum Disorder, also known as ASD, is a broad title that is used when referring to people with autism or Asperger's syndrome on all functioning levels. Growing up, I've had the privilege of participating in various summer programs and school events which enabled me to interact with children with ASD. Through these experiences, I realized that I want to understand their world while bringing them into mine. For my student teaching placement, I was placed in an inclusion classroom for students with ASD. I immediately began to ask myself the following question: what actually goes into working with this population? Will I truly enjoy working with these children? What is it like on a day-to-day basis in the classroom? What are some strategies and characteristics a teacher needs to be aware of? Throughout my placement in this inclusion classroom, I was extremely fortunate to obtain answers of many of my questions and gain significant knowledge to share with other new teachers like me who want to work with students with ASD. Throughout my thesis, I discussed the diagnosis of ASD, 3 students in my classroom who were diagnosed with ASD, Alice, Harris, and Ray, and shared the knowledge I have gained during my placement in regards to observations of students and strategies implemented. Alice, Harris, and Ray were all diagnosed with ASD and were among the 15 students in the inclusion classroom I was placed. While Alice, Harris, and Ray were all diagnosed with ASD, each child possessed many different qualities, abilities, challenges, and needs. I organized my thesis into 5 different components of ASD and accompanied those components with the appropriate strategies, personal experiences, and classroom accommodations. These 5 components were the sensory component, which are like the 5 senses, the social component, interactions with other people, friends, and family, the emotional component, interpreting emotions and how you express your emotions, language, the ability to express your feelings through words, and reading comprehension. After I explained each component of ASD, along with some other strategies and accommodations pertaining to those, I discussed 3 popular methods used by professionals. They were first, DIR, which is Stanley Greenspan's floor time model, and this model encourages children with ASD to be engaged and focused on an activity or an object on the rug with an adult. Next, ABA, Applied Behavior Analysis, and this is a method that has rules in place for setting up a structured environment to enable children with autism to learn. And lastly, TEACH, Treatment and Education of Autistic and Related Communication Handicapped Children. And this model teaches children with ASD to communicate and learn pragmatics. The inclusion classroom I taught in was based off the components of TEACH. Like any educational program, I realized some of the positive and negative attributes of an inclusion classroom setting. In terms of working in this inclusion classroom, I became aware of some of the hesitations parents expressed. Parents of the typically developing students expressed concerns that their children were not receiving as much attention as the students with ASD. I did not experience this lack of attention and only felt that all the students received equal and positive attention. Some positive aspects I observed were that the typically developing students gained understanding, learned compassion, and broadened their educations. Most of all, the typically developing students learned acceptance. Good role models constantly surrounded the children. Alice, Harris, and Ray were able to interact, model, and observe the way typically developing students interacted. So too, these 3 children were able to engage in daily activities while they continuously modeled their peers. Through extensive research, I have gained a great deal of knowledge on ASD, various teaching techniques, and popular methods used worldwide. After researching, reading, and internalizing, I chose to reflect upon myself as a new teacher. In general, I've become more aware of the considerable amount of patience I need when working with children on the autism spectrum. One must always have an open mind, confidence, self-worth, and patience. All those qualities are necessary to be effective, caring teachers. Finally, I have realized the importance of a positive and safe environment. All the attributes I've discussed in my paper will help me create an encouraging and secure environment and classroom. This will enable my future students to thrive and acquire the self-confidence they need and deserve.
I should add, I wasn't here for the prior presentations. Was there time for questions, if people have questions? At the end for everyone. Okay, thank you.